This video is Techno-Necromantic remote manipulation, and it's definitely for the 18-year-olds and above. So be warned, this is not content for children. Now, Ivanova proved that you can send healing down the telephone line, and now of course everything's connected, not like it was with us boomers, by a dial telephone, and not every house had a telephone. The poor people had to go to the telephone box, which was me and my mum until my 20s, because we were dirt poor. But of course now, rags to riches. I'm the most important man on the planet, and I have the power of life or death over everyone on the planet. What do you think of that, cameraman?
I think it's a nice thing to have.
I do agree, unless of course you're Elon Musk. Now with Ivanova, the telephone line, she sent healing to people to heal them. And Colin Bloy in Spain was on national radio broadcasting healing to the Spanish people, and he had me along as his psychic bodyguard because he was terrified of being attacked with remote manipulation. So you can see I've been a psychic bodyguard since my 20s. That's why I'm the #1 psychic bodyguard on the planet, and Putin's life, Xi Jinping and the great Kim Il-sung, plus of course the Vietnamese bigwigs, safety depends upon my psychic bodyguarding, because as you can see with the remote manipulation, it's now the Wild West, and I've shot all the sheriffs. So as you can see, if you don't have a psychic bodyguard who can protect you against full spectrum remote manipulation, and I've stilled every single psychic bodyguard in the West, so it's no good funneling billions to psychic bodyguards in the West, because they've all been stilled thanks to Bezos, Amazon, Morton Janklow, Robert Jordan and the Wheel of Time. But we'll talk a bit more about stilling psychic bodyguards in the future. This is simply remote manipulation, and it's really easy and totally efficacious if, of course, you're Empire. Now we've got satellites, Wi-Fi, 5G, 6G from the Borg producing terahertz radiation from their own bodies as they're destroyed by the graphene inside. And of course Elon Musk, the favourite torture toy, death goat Jew, Omega Hellized, pinata of the silo with his tens of thousands of satellites over the planet, and there must be at least 10,000 over the train. So as you can see, we've got super conduits for mammoth remote manipulation, all from the train. Now, what happens if instead of broadcasting healing down the 4 vector to the patient, we go the opposite direction? By not broadcasting illness, we broadcast death to produce remote manipulation. How do we get the source of death to broadcast at our targets, the targeted individuals like Elon Musk or Rothschild, Rockefeller, royal family? Well, of course, we need to be able, instead of accessing healing energy, we need to be able to access the death force. So this death force is something we wish to collect and then give to the target. So instead of giving them healing energy and making yourself ill, giving yourself cancer, aging rapidly and then dying, and then of course losing our soul and spirit's energy, so we can be carted off to demonic hells like the Abaddon boxes described in Supernatural Spirit. We want to be able to collect the death force. So these are humans. Here's lovely. Here's a rat-faced Jew, Jeremiah Schwartzy boy, and as you can see, he's been very busy. He's almost everywhere, isn't he? As I say, isn't this amazing for a little imbecile with not even a college education, but of course CIA front. See the big game. So we need to collect the death force from sacrificial humans that have been sacrificed and then we can then transmit it to our targets. Now, the first stop is the one with the greatest death force, because she was the youngest. So here we are. We've got Iris Goldsmith. Remember her family. She's part of the Rothschild family. Goldsmiths are Rothschilds. That, of course, the Middleton creature is a Goldsmith, but actually a Rothschild. They said they'd crush me like a flea, and my ramblings would have no effect on reality. And remember, Mummy's a Rothschild, so Goldsmith is a porky Jew, but we've got a proper Rothschild mother. And of course, words have power. The Rothschilds tried to curse me, and of course Jeremiah Schwartz and his ilk stole the curse. So all the Jews and their ilk got crushed like fleas, and their ramblings had no effect on reality. She was crushed under one of those four-wheel off-road vehicles and splattered, and her ramblings had no effect on reality. So this is our first port of call, and this works because of Jeremiah Schwartzy boy. CIA, because remember, they did the occult spell to steal me, and in fact they had nothing to bet, so they made an IOU that I wouldn't take Jeremiah Schwartzy boy seriously, and I take all threats seriously, especially Jewish threats, and because of that, the CIA and Schwartzy boy stole the Rothschilds' curse against me to crush me like a flea, and my ramblings have no effect on reality. And as you can see, this is the most important inceptor of remote manipulation, because this was the first victim of the Rothschilds' own curse blowing back on them. And we've got the entire Rothschild family powering remote manipulation via her, and the Goldsmiths, and the Rockefellers, and the royal family who married into the Rothschilds, aka Goldsmiths, via Middleton, who may or may not be alive, and the children, plus everyone who uplines to them, which is all the Western population and all the other countries and people that support the West. So you can see the energy for remote manipulation is all put in place by this little salvant, and of course the Rothschilds having their curse reversed. So there's a nice picture with a light being snuffed out of the rat-faced Jew. Now, to start this, we're going to bilocate, but not into Iris Goldsmith? No. We're going to be sitting comfortably in our chair. And we're going to remotely upload the remote manipulation needed to remotely manipulate our target. How do I do that, Tim? That's easy. You fall asleep twice in the same position as you are watching this little rat-faced salad. But not in her. You can just wake up on the table crushing out her Christmas cake. And of course, if you are bilocating, you don't need to worry about candles, because the other, as Seamus call it, the biophysical body, can't be afflicted by fire. So here I am lounging in an armchair, and you can fall asleep twice in the same position in the picture, which of course existed, so you are bilocating back through time. And of course you can't do that because you are just matrix vermin. Repeat after me, cameraman. I'm just matrix vermin. So they know their place. Naggles, though, are 5-dimensional. We have the 4 lobes, the 4 vector, and we are 5-dimensional beings. So if you become a vampire, I outsource myself to you, and you can bilocate back in time. So you wake up in this scene or any other scene of Iris Goldsmith. There's a whole video. And then you get up from your sitting position, go up to Iris Goldsmith and ram your fist through her midsection into her energy body and rip her apart, taking out the death force that killed her, which of course was the Rothschild curse. So we're using the Rothschild's power and that of the Rothschild Empire for all our remote manipulation. Isn't that clever?
Very.
I know. Then once you've got it in your right hand, not the left, because the left is receiving, we're collecting in the right, so we're just grabbing it and it's not coming into ourselves. But we've got it ready to place into the victim. Isn't that easy? Then, of course, what we do in the picture, and remember, this is all Ivana, we're operating along those corridors. You can think of it basically as wandering along the corridor, which is open and available to Naggles, and was available to the American filth via the Jewish Nagwal woman, Taylor Swift, before she was balefire. And everything they did with her was erased. Her entire timeline, gone. So you see how vital she was to the American psychic warfare program. Without her, they are now my torture toys. Say thank you, Americans, for being my torture toys. I think they're a bit petulant, cameraman. They haven't said thank you. Anyway, you then fall asleep in the same position you are watching the video, but in fact in the video clip, in the picture. And when you wake up, you're back in your viewing position, in my case lounging in a comfy chair with Iris Goldsmith's death in my right hand. It wasn't there before, now it is. So what are we going to do with this? Are we going to have a wank with our right hand and kill our penis? And doing our testicles? No, no, no. Please do not touch anything with your right hand until you've disposed of Iris Goldsmith's death, the death force, powered by all the Rothschilds and the Rothschild Empire. So you see how amazingly powerful this is. This is the ultimate remote manipulation, but will only work because it came from the Rothschilds on the Rothschild Empire and its population, and anyone that uplines to the Rothschilds. So you can't use this on Vladimir Putin. No, 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 because the Rothschilds said they would torture Vladimir Putin to death, or kill him, or have him in The Hague and microwave him to death like Milosevic. So he's on my side. And of course you can't use it on Xi Jinping, because Xi Jinping is the Rothschild puppet. In China they had a whole book on the Rothschilds and how they run the West. Couldn't have that in the West, could we? And of course the great Kim Il-sung, who's one bad mood away from launching the H-bomb on the gigafactory in Nevada and wiping out the West. He's definitely not a Rothschild supporter. But of course, if you're Iranian, like the Iranian Prime Minister, who's an American Tory, there are loads of Iranians that are really Rothschild puppets. So only the hardliners who want to slaughter the West would be in this camp and able to use remote manipulation. Remember, Iran's full of fifth columnists who want to go back to the Shah's days and have the Iranian bank run by the Rothschilds. Now, that means that this lot are very, very happy, because this remote manipulation is foolproof and can't be used against them. So if you get those nasty Uyghurs in Xinjiang, horrible, they can't use this to kill Xi Jinping, because they are Rothschild puppets, and Rothschild puppets are in fact the victims of this technology. So as you can see, that then negates the entire Muslim population of China from using remote manipulation against Xi Jinping. So I'm sure he's going to be very happy to hear this. So you can see how brilliant the Psylord is when he builds psi technology, because he's five-dimensional. It all fits together like a really complex jigsaw puzzle, all completed now. Anyway, my right hand's getting a bit peed off having heard death in my hand, so we're going to go to our victim.
How are you feeling?
It really has been a very tough time for the royal family.
King Charles breaking his silence on his, quote, frightening experience with cancer. The monarch diagnosed with an unspecified form of the disease in February of last year, now making his first ever comments about his battle as he and Queen Camilla host a reception for the cancer.
So, this is the first target for Iris Goldsmith's death force. Why? Well, because the royal family had married into the Goldsmiths. Kate Middleton is a Goldsmith and a Rothschild. And of course they all upline in the UK to Charles boy. And of course the royal family are terrified that yours truly will breed, because of course I've got the bloodline of Lucifer, and the little Jewish piglets will be kicked into the feeding trough of Lucifer's demons. So we're going to download Iris Goldsmith's death into Charles boy. So how do we do that, Tim? I don't know, because I'm a two-matrix moron. Am I not, cameraman?
I am.
Exactly. Well, you simply fall asleep twice in the position you're watching the image. I'm going to be falling asleep and waking up on the red carpet. Because I'm a VIP, and if anyone says I'm not VIP and doesn't roll out the red carpet to me, they'll be slaughtered like a dog. There we are. So bilocated into the image. So I get up from my slouched position, walk up to Charlesy boy, and I fist him in the guts through the gap and release Iris Goldsmith's Death Force into Charlesy boy. Simple as that. Then I fall asleep again, twice, and wake up in the armchair again. And I've got rid of her nasty Death Force, making my handle unpleasant. So as you can see now, if you've got remote sensing, you'll see a black filth spreading out in Charlesy boy from this procedure, spreading throughout his energy body and into his physical body. Now, with Techno-Necromantic remote manipulation, it's easy because you've got all the satellites, the 5G, not like in my time, I'd have to phone up, Charles, this is a pauper on the phone, speak to me so I can remotely manipulate you, Charles. Charles, why do you wish to speak to Prince Charles? He's a prince then. Because I want to remotely manipulate him and he needs to be listening on the telephone line when I do it to him. Can you get Prince Charles to the phone so I can remotely manipulate him? What? Are you mad? No, I want to remotely manipulate Prince Charles. Can you get him on the phone to speak to me? I need about 2 minutes of his time and then he'll be finished. Sorry? I need to speak to Prince Charles to remotely manipulate him. Can I speak to Prince? I'm being cut off, cameraman. So you can see, in my day, this was impossible. Because we had the little black and white TVs, and of course you'd have to be ready, willing and able to see him live on the TV, then jump into to do it, and then jump back. And there was no Wi-Fi or satellite connection. You would have to depend upon the connection from the TV. But the problem with the TV is the TV was not connected to the big TV transmitter. So the TV could not be used as a portal to get to Prince Charles. Now, of course, my smart TV, LG, I love LG, with my baby speakers. I need some monster speakers, but I need a bigger place, need my yacht first. A smart TV not only is connected to the internet, but it connects me via 4-vector to the internet and via the 5G, which is bathing Prince Charles, now King Charles, and the satellites, which are bathing King Charles and his mobile phone, which he carries around, and all these smart devices around him. He's connected to me 24/7. But in my day, the only way to connect to him wouldn't be through the TV, because the TV didn't connect back to the transmitter. So it was worthless. The only way was down the telephone line. Can I speak to Prince Charles, please, to remotely manipulate him? Which is not going to be working very well. And of course you can do this manually. You can go up to a target and touch them in the midsection to do this. But of course, if you tried to tap him in the midsection, his bodyguards would jump on you, would they not?
They would.
So as you can see, thanks to Techno-Necromantic remote manipulation is child's play as long as you have a connected device. And I wander around Vietnam and everyone's got a smart phone, which now is a weapon of war. Anyone with a smartphone can remotely manipulate anyone on the list, which of course is the entire Rothschild list. But not the great Xi Jinping, or Kim Jong-un, or Vladimir Putin, or the Vietnamese bigwigs, who of course aren't mad and keen with the Americans, thanks to the tariffs. So as you can see, this is targeted at all the fifth columnists as well within the countries, like in Iran, and plenty of fifth columnists in the Trang. It's mainly Russians spraying bioweapon and nanotech, is it not? All Russian. So there are loads of traitorous Russians, and I would think a good majority of them are in the Trang, don't you? So one can see they're easily targeted, but people who are categorically against the Rothschilds cannot be remote manipulated by these protocols, which I would think would be very pleasing if you're in the Kremlin or in Beijing or in Pyongyang. So you can see the beauty of this technology. Now we come to the next part of this. Now of course we come to the next bit. Since the Rothschilds were agents of the architect, we can now use the Jew God, Yahweh, Tetragrammaton, Elohim, Stranger Tractor, Sabaoth, Adonai, and all the other filth in our remote manipulation. So we have remote manipulation powered by the former Jew God. So here's a little clip just to get you in the mood. There we are. So, if we're going to use the Jew God, it's now in Omega Hell, and of course, if you look under my lovely LG Smart TV, I might have to get a bigger one since I'm moving and I've got more space. I have to go to 85 instead of 65. You'll see that I've got a bit of the centre of the grail under the TV that links me to the oubliettes in Omega Hell, where the Elohim are being tortured to source level by my top employee, Lucifer. So it's constantly supplying me with new light from the eternal torture of the so-called God. Because all of the Elohim, God, the architect, etc., Tetragrammaton, Adonai, Sabaoth, Yahweh, Elohim, are all in Omega Hell. And you see now I made a deal with Lucifer because I need Lucifer to run my torture prison in Omega Hell to make new light. Because remember when we Baal fired the vessel of Lilith, which was Taylor Swift, Lilith was exterminated, never existed, gone. And the power to do this came from the Jews, the chosen race of the Jew God and the Jew God. Because of course they stole my book, and they're all Jewish, and of course Jeremiah Schwartz and his ilk, and all the way up to the Rothschilds, who are the walking, talking vessels for Elohim. So you can see how it all works. I've tricked the Elohim into eternal torture to power me, and of course the light that we explained coming out of the Feigenbaum period doubling, some of which was given to Lucifer to make him the archangel of light, and then he has to be Satanized, turned completely dark to give the light from Lilith, given to Lucifer, to the architect to become the Jew god, to start its creation using the Higgs field, the light, to make its information real. That never happened because it all was erased. So Taylor Swift being the vessel for Lilith, totally erased. Gone. So the light was never stolen from the source, and therefore the light for Lucifer always came from the eternal torture by the source, which is yours truly, of this so-called God, the Elohim, by yours truly. And of course, wages for Lucifer torturing the Jew God makes him the archangel of light. All makes sense now. So you can see how it fits together. It fits together if you're 5-dimensional, and of course the source time is light stolen. So if Lucifer is the archangel of light, Lucifer must be being paid because he's an archangel, the Bible means the true God. The source must be being paid by the true God, the source, to be the archangel of creation, and of course get promoted to become Amalek, total Amalek actually, to run all of chaos, to torture it and pull it all into Omega Hell, to produce new light, to produce new source, and to get bonus payments. So the more of the chaotic things Lucifer tortures, the brighter he gets, because his wages don't change, but he gets bonuses for increasing chaos torture and the amount of chaos he tortures. So that means when we're doing remote manipulation, we can go from the microcosm to the macrocosm in our remote manipulation and use the full power of the Omega Hellized Jew God to remotely manipulate our victims. And what have we done to God? Well, Sidle, the source, has remotely manipulated the Jew God. Therefore, the Word in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was not with God, and the Word was not God, and he was not the beginning. God, he was the end because he got balefied. So there's one word, which is die. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was die. Omega Hellizes all chaos creatures, and of course the Jew God, the Elohim, Adonai, Sabaoth, Yahweh, Tetragrammaton, the strange attractor. And once you've done that, no light, therefore everything that was created by the Jew God with the stolen light from Lilith becomes Matrix. So Elon Musk is right, he is in the Matrix, and everyone that uplines to the Rothschilds is in the Matrix, and every alien is in the Matrix, and it's only the enemies of the Rothschilds that, like Lucifer, get paid with light for their war against the Jew God and the unrighteous. So that means all the true enemies of the Rothschilds and the Jew God and the aliens are not matrix entities. They are in fact paid with light, and their information is made real as payment. Because nobody works for free. That, of course, would be Jewing people, wouldn't it, cameraman?
Yeah, it would.
Oh, I know. So one can see now that we add the word of power, die, which of course links us to why are words of primary importance? Well, word is scalar. If you speak, you are broadcasting. Scalar. Hence, you'll see that in Gnosticism there are the screaming faces on Yaldabaoth. And of course there's a choir of celestial angels singing all the time in heaven, and everyone's singing. Why? Because they're providing scalar to the Jew God, which is vital for all creation, not just the light, but scalar.
The abilities.
Leave us. You must do everything my mother does.
You dismissed my mother in her own house.
Come here. Kneel.
So that is the use of scalar, the voice, which is in the June books. So we're using the voice for remote manipulation. Instead of saying, come here, it's die. So when we go into the target, we're now going to add not the microcosm, but the macrocosm of the Elohim, supplied by their eternal torture from my number one employee, Lucifer. And of course, it's coming out of the center of the Grail stone that's sitting under the TV, which is basically supplying me with all of the scalar, Higgs field, torsion field, leptonics light, all new stuff from the eternal torture of the Elohim and everything Elohimic. So as you can see, think of it as a white hole that simply dumps light into me from Omega Hell. And of course we're dumping more and more darkness, making them darker and darker in their torture, because we're satanizing the Elohim to the source level. And since the source keeps rebooting itself, when they go completely mad from the torture, they'll restart again at that higher level, and again, and again, and again. Because the source can never die, so our torture toys can never die, and when we drive them to the level they can't stand the torture and go mad, they're rebooted, fully sane at that torture level, to begin again at a higher torture level. It's an iteration. Lovely. Gotta have a hobby. So, one can see now, we're going to use this for the macrocosmic version of remote manipulation.